got love for you, man. You know what I'm saying?
What are we talking about? You know, I'm not here to start any trouble.
I'm only going to say nice things about you from now on. I think you're handsome, and I think you're a wonderful host.
I'm fat and I'm overweight. Just don't say anything silly.
I was waiting for you to say that.
I'm not laughing about it. You think this is funny? I take it serious.
You know, I don't want y'all to take anything out of context that I'm saying.
He's very funny. He likes to joke around a lot.
As a personality and as an entertainer, yes.
This is going to be really quick. I'm not taking any questions.
Go ahead and get comfortable. I'm going to talk for a little bit.
You're listening to Cabbie Presents, the podcast.
Welcome back to the Cabbie Presents podcast. After a long hiatus, I return. Thank you for the tweets and the messages on the Book of Faces about the podcast. This year has been very hectic as far as travel goes because we've been trying to pump out even more segments on the TV side to do Cabbie Presents features on TSN. And for those who are discovering this podcast by accident on iTunes or on my Twitter feed, if you are interested in watching the videos, you can go to tsn.ca/Cabbie Presents. Or if you'd like to fall down a YouTube wormhole, just go on to YouTube and type in Cabbie Presents, and you can waste a solid hour and 45. As the weather's been like brutal here in Canada, I recommend it for like a Sunday night or like a random Tuesday night if there's nothing good on television. YouTube rabbit hole, Cabbie Presents. So I was on a bus over the Olympic break in February with my good friend Joffrey Lupul. And we're riding with these 15 and 16-year-old dudes, the Brampton 45s, on their way to a hockey game. They're going to play a team from Milton. And Brampton, Ontario is about 30 minutes outside of Toronto. And Milton, Ontario is about 45 minutes. So anyway, from Milton to Brampton, or vice versa, we were on the bus for about half an hour, 45 minutes. And Joffrey is relaying his experience as a hockey player to these young hockey dudes. And I don't really know the X's and O's of the game very well, but it was cool to hear Lupul articulate about playing against fast teams and what to do in the zone and how to play particular lines and how to, always have confidence even when you're down or how to play through long stretches. It was really cool. I know for these 15 and 16-year-old dudes, it made quite an impression. Because when in your life as a teenager will you meet a professional athlete, en route to your own game? It was special. And there were some inspiring words. There were some insightful questions from the coaches on board. That even the kids had some great questions that everybody left the bus feeling charged when we got to the arena. So much so that the team lost 4-3. If I wasn't on the bus, they may have won 8-1. But I think I messed up the whole feng shui of the bus. And I don't think I smelled particularly well. And it brings me back to this story from high school when I was riding on the bus. I went to Galt Collegiate Institute in Cambridge, Ontario. Cambridge, Ontario is like 1 hour west of Toronto. And we're going to a track meet. And when I was in high school, I used to do the fat guy events. Fat guy event number 1, javelin. Fat guy event number 2, discus. Fat guy event number 3, shot put. So on the bus was one of our fat guys, and in no circumstance does someone ever need to go to the bathroom that much that they had to relieve themselves into a Gatorade bottle or a water bottle. But at 17 years old, this dude thought it was a great idea to relieve himself into an empty bottle of Gatorade. So we're all kind of laughing and snickering. And, at 17, this is like, it's the equivalent of like somebody ripping one in the back and like having the bus laugh for like 7 to 10 seconds. So here's this dude going into this bottle. After he finishes, he tells some people, and like half of the bus knows what's happened, and the girls are like, ew. So one of the other knuckleheads on our bus, who was like, he's like the guy that you never want to dare because he will always do your dare and then one up your dare. So he goes to the back. He's like, oh man, dude, I'm glad you went. I'm gonna do the same. So he switched seats with the guy that was sitting next to the original conspirator, the original urinator, we'll call him. We'll call him Wes the Urinator. So he sits next to Wes the Urinator, and he uses the same bottle. Finishes up, and then because he's such a jerk, and because he wanted to make an example of Wes the Urinator, he pretended, and the bus is just traveling on like the 401, just like for those in the United States, just the interstate highway. It's paved and it's perfect. But at one point, he pretended that there was turbulence on the bus, and he had the screw loose a little bit, and he spilled most of the contents on the original Wes the Urinator on his lap and his hands before we went to the track meet. Moral of the story is, don't be a jackass, because a bigger jackass will make you the example of a jackass. On today's podcast, I am the jackass. Not saying that someone's going to urinate on this particular next 45 minutes of storytelling, but we are going to tell some stories. And this dude is a great dude. By all accounts, all his teammates, he may not be famous, but in some circles, he's a legend. And in our conversation, we're going to spend most of it talking about music. This dude has made it to the promised land and hoisted Lord Stanley's cup. But he's also experienced the promised land in other ways. It's not Graceland, but it's pretty close. Who wouldn't want to be a roadie for a rock star? His story begins right now.
If it's going to be an interview, I'm going to conduct it. So I'll answer my own questions, ask myself the questions, then give y'all the answers.
The year was 2010. It was June. We were in Philadelphia. The Chicago Blackhawks beat the Philadelphia Flyers in 6 games, and I presented him with a first-place medal around his neck. Moments later, he was on CBC with Scott Oak, and when asked about the medal, he said a friend gave it to me. In 2010, he became one of the staples of my interviews as I went on this journey to the Stanley Cup, because he's always been a great guy, and he's always been a great story, and always been a great quote. Currently with the San Jose Sharks, he is somewhere in the state of California. I'm pleased to be welcomed by Adam Burish. Hello, sir.
Cabbie, how you doing, my friend?
Fantastic. I haven't seen you in a really long time.
I know it.
Like, I don't even know if you still have long hair. Do you have long hair anymore?
You know what? I cut it at the start of the season. I had back surgery, so I kind of wanted to have the professional look to start the season. So I cut it a little short, but I'm gonna let it rip again. No, I won't cut it for a while.
Well, how short is short? Like, did you go like straight buzz cut or?
No, not down to the wood. Just it's probably like 4 or 5 inches, 3 or 4 inches. You know.
So is it starting to? I mean, you're halfway through the season. Is it starting to get shaggy now?
Nah, it's getting a lot. I had a couple maintenance haircuts, just to kind of clean it up around the ears and stuff. But it's still pretty short now. But it'll be another month. It'll start getting good. Right around playoff time,
Nice, yeah. Well, that's perfect because you can grow a beard quite easily, yeah.
Yeah, I can get a pretty good beard going. Yeah.
Are you the hairiest man on your team?
No, I'm not a hairy guy. Brent Burns is a pretty hairy. He's like a caveman kind of. He has a caveman look. He's got no teeth. He's got the terrible shaggy beard all year long. He's pretty hairy. Joe Thornton gets a pretty good beard going. He gets pretty hairy too. But
right.
So those guys get pretty hairy. But I'm not a real hairy guy. I like to kind of keep it clean. Who's the cleanest guy? This Rafi Torres, that guy though. I got to tell you. This guy doesn't have a hair on his body anywhere. He's not. Every time this guy's in the shower, he's shaving something. There's something getting shaved in the shower every time he's there. So real clean, professional guy. So it's classy. I like to say he's a real classy guy.
Raffy's one of the few gingers in the league. Like there's like might be one per team.
Maybe that's why he shaves so much. Doesn't want anyone to know he's a ginger.
I asked Hartnell once if he minded that expression. He didn't mind, and then I asked Cordy Schneider. He's like, "Yeah, I don't really like it that much." So I have to be very careful when throwing around the term ginger at people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think Raffy minds. Raffy says it himself. He says all the time. I think I'm the only redheaded Mexican you guys know.
Well, he might be the only one. Like, oh no, who was the dude that fought Mayweather? Who just fought like recently? Alvarez?
Canelo. Yeah, Canelo Alvarez. Yeah, he's a redheaded guy too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a small fraternity right there, like redheaded Mexican dudes. And you played with two guys that. One guy he could just grow Wolverine chops, and the other dude couldn't grow a beard at all. Who was once I was told your best friend, your BFF. Do you know who I'm referring to?
maybe Pat Kane, maybe.
Right, as the one who couldn't grow anything, and then the Wolverine chops. Do you know who I'm referring to?
That's Jonathan Taves.
What are your? So is it true that you and Patrick Kane were like BFFs in your time in Chicago?
We were good buddies there. We hung out quite a bit. We had a lot of fun together. Yeah, we were pretty close when I was there. We were still buddies too. We still talk. We probably send him a text or once a month or so, or when something's going on. Or in the summer, we see each other in the summer when I go back to Chicago. And both those guys, I still talk to both those guys here and there. But yeah, Patty and I were pretty close when I was there.
Does that mean like you guys knew the same girls?
We had a couple. We ran in the same circle. We had a couple friends that were mutual friends, I guess you could say. So we had we were just friendly guys. We like to get out and make new friends and just have a good time.
Dude, I mean, when it comes to people of your ilk, that pool gets a lot smaller because there's just a certain there's a pool of friends, like new friends, lady friends, etc. But that pool is like in a city like Chicago, which is metropolitan area is probably 6 million people. Really, the pool is about 200 chicks.
Yep.
Max.
Yep.
It might even be.
Yep. You know how it is. I mean, it's no different than any big city in Toronto, or like Toronto or any of the big cities. It's a big city, but after a while, and you're there for a long time, it starts to feel a little smaller and a little smaller and a little smaller as you're there longer and longer. And the pool gets a little smaller as you sit around longer. But you know what? We were just out hanging out, having fun, just being friendly guys.
Adam, how do you navigate those waters when the pool becomes small? I mean, was it ever suffocatingly small, or did you find that you use the same life rafts when navigating in those pools?
Well, no, you know what? It was never too small. The pool was always, the pool was always open, and it was always, that was one of my favorites. I mean, Chicago is one of my favorite all-time cities. I loved living there. I loved playing there. There's always something going on. There's always someone new to meet. There's always something new going on. There's always somewhere, something new to do, and it's a fun. That was my favorite place. I don't think there's probably a better city to play in than Chicago. It was a pretty wild 4 years there.
Okay, so 4 years. Okay, so now geographically and employment-wise, you're kind of in an opposite situation because I've been to San Jose and the pool there sucks. Chicago, world-class pool. The pool in San Jose, man, it's like a wading pool. It like goes at your ankles. Like how do you find navigating those waters?
You know what? It's different. You're right. Totally different situation. You know what though? Like, I don't miss the cold weather anymore. Though I think I don't know what happened to me. I grew up in Wisconsin, lived in Chicago. I've always lived my whole life in cold weather. And now it gets like it's 30 degrees or 40 degrees, and I'm somewhere. It's freezing to me now. Right. I can't even handle the cold anymore. So the weather here is sick. It's same weather every day. Yeah, we're not in the big Olympic pools anymore out here.
Right,
it's a little different, but
it's like a bathtub.
I will say, it's a bathtub, yeah. But if you got a family and you got kids, this is a beautiful place to live. And if you have a date in town or you want to bring a girlfriend somewhere nice, we're an hour and a half from Napa Valley. We're 50 minutes door to door down to Pebble Beach or Monterey for a nice, nice romantic bed and breakfast. Cabbie, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Well, I know I've seen it on TV.
Yeah, something real romantic down there in Monterey. And
seen it in the movies.
There's a lot in San Francisco, 45 minutes to San Francisco. So we're around a lot of cool things to do in this city. So it's a nice place to live, and playing here is awesome. I mean, the building is as loud as any building we've been in and you can play in. So it's a cool place to play.
So like, what is conversation like when you're talking to a bunch of tech nerds and like Google nerds?
I pretty much walk away because they don't want to hear what a stupid guy like me's got to say. They kind of, I got nothing to say to that. I have nothing intelligent to say to those guys. But I can tell you, if you're out here and your iPhone breaks or you got a problem with your computer, there's a lot of people you can talk to out here.
That gets repaired within seconds. Like your phone falls, it hits the concrete, it shatters like a spider web. Within seconds, it's repaired.
Yeah, you just lean over to the table next to you and you hand your phone to whoever sitting next to you. You can bet they can probably fix it.
The reason I've been trying to get you on this podcast for a long time is because I've heard stories about how good you tell stories, and then I randomly heard a story about like it was either like a country festival or you were like friends with like a country singer. And I was thinking about this yesterday. I couldn't remember who told me the story, but like it was like, yeah, Adam Burish is friends with like a Luke Bryan or a Keith Urban or one of those types. I'm not that familiar with the country music scene, and I was like, how the hell did that? Do you know where I'm from? Oh man, who was I talking to? I don't know if it was Loops or if it was Biz. There was somebody who like went to a concert or a festival with you, and you were like the mayor of this friggin' thing. Like you were like connected in these parts amongst. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I got a lot of friends in country music, and there's actually a funny story. When I played in Chicago, after the game, there's always people in the locker room. There's always sponsors, or there's people that front office people are bringing random people down to the locker room after a game, and sometimes it's someone you recognize. Usually it's people you don't. It can sometimes get a little old and a little long, and you got to walk over and say hi. Sometimes maybe you just got done playing back-to-back games. You're tired. You just lost. The coach is screaming at you. You don't feel like talking. But there's a guy in the changing stall where I'm changing. There's a guy standing there, and I'm, completely naked, and I'm just kind of over it. I just want to shower and get out of there. And there's a guy standing there, and I'm like, hey, man, what's up? He's like, nothing. And I'm naked. I'm thinking he's going to be a little uncomfortable. He's probably just going to walk away. But he's like, hey, how you doing? Like, didn't faze him at all. I said, hey, where are you from? He goes, well, I live in Nashville. He goes, I'm from Chicago originally, but I live in Nashville. I go, cool, what do you do in Nashville? He goes, well, I work in country music. And I said, awesome. I'm a big country music fan. He's like, yeah? And I go, yeah. He's like, well, hey, listen, I got a band in town tomorrow night. I'm not sure if you heard of them, Brooks Dunn. You want to come out to the show? Here's my business card. I know you guys get bugged a lot, but give me a call if you want to come and set you guys up. I said, okay, cool. I left, and the next day I'm having lunch, and I was with James Wisniewski, and he was just like, hey, call the guy. You want to go to the show? And I was like, yeah, let's call this guy and see what he's got. So we called him. He said, get a car, show up at 7 o'clock, and we'll go. And so I called him, set it up, got a car, drove into the show. He said, just pull it next to this big blue bus behind the stadium. I'll tell the security guys, let you guys in. So we pulled in, go to the big blue bus, open the door, and there's this guy I just met. His name's Bryan. Walk on the bus, and there's Brooks and Dunn sitting there. Kix Brooks and Ronnie Dunn sitting there on the bus, two of the biggest country music legends of all time, going on there, doing their farewell tour. And so he's like, hey, you guys are late. We're like, yeah, sorry, man, traffic. He's like, hey, let's go. Come up, follow us. So we follow Brooks and Dunn and my buddy Bryan and James Wisniewski and I. We would walk right in the middle of the stage. There's a big curtain down. We're like, where are we going? Are you kidding me? We're on the middle of the stage. Kix Brooks has got a guitar over his shoulder, starts playing the intro to Hillbilly Deluxe, is one of their big hits. Starts playing it. The whole crowd can hear it, but there's a curtain down so nobody could see. All of a sudden, some little guy comes out with 5 little red Solo cups with a little shot of Crown Royal in them. Says, cheers, boys. Here's to a good season. Good luck. And except for when you play the Predators, cheers to a good show. So we nailed a shot of Crown Royal with these guys. And he's like, get out of here. And so we ran off the side of the stage. The show starts. And I'm like, holy man, this is cool. So we watched the show from there. And so this guy, his name is Brian O'Connell. He's the biggest country music promoter in the business. And from then I just became real good friends with him. And he started introducing me to, I'd go to Nashville, and he started introducing me to some different guys. And, I was a big country music fan. And so then over the last couple of years, the one you were probably talking about was Jason Aldean. I've been on the road with him now a few times, and in the summertime, usually it's something I always look forward to doing. And Joe Don Rooney, who's the lead guitar player for Rascal Flatts, got to be buddies with him, and Gary Allen, and just a lot of different guys. And I love the music. I play the guitar. They're just these country guys are just the nicest, most down-to-earth guys. I mean, they've got, they just couldn't be nicer people is what I kind of liked about them, and I like the music. But so, yeah, I've been on the road. Usually in the summertime, I'll jump on the road for a weekend with Rascal Flatts, and I'll jump on the road usually once, or actually twice last summer. I went out with Jason Aldean and his band, and just have a killer time, man. It's pretty cool. I'll finish with one more story, but
Adam, keep it rolling, dude. This is amazing.
Okay, one of the coolest things I always remember is before one of Jason Aldean's shows, we're sitting in the dressing room, and one of his bass players, name's Tully Kennedy. He's a huge Boston Bruins fan, and so we're talking hockey. And Jason, he's not the biggest hockey fan. He knows a little bit, but so he's asking questions about hockey. I think there was a game that was on TV or something like that, and we're watching, and they're asking questions and blah blah blah. So then they go and do the show. He finishes his encore, and he's walking off the stage, and the crowd's just, I wish I had a camera, because the crowd was going bananas behind him. He just killed his show. 25,000 people going bananas, and he walks off, and he throws his cowboy hat at me, and he goes, and it was just perfect. He goes, you know what the difference between I do and you do is, boy? And I go, what? He goes, I never lose, still undefeated. He points at the crowd, and then he walks off, cracks a beer, chugs a beer, and walks off, and he just throws his cowboy hat at me. It was so perfect, man. It was hilarious.
That's a great walk-off. Probably the best walk-off that you can imagine.
Yeah,
that's tremendous. Yes, it was. Somebody told me that you go on tour with country acts. I was like, what? So Adam, when you're on tour with a Rascal Flatts, you go out for a few days. What does that actually mean? When you're on tour with them, what are you physically doing, and how do you know what to do?
I mean, you just kind of go with the flow, I guess. It's all those bands are different. Like Jason Aldean and his band, he was out with Luke Bryan the time I was out with him last summer, and they play they do the show, have some beers and some whiskey, and hang out afterwards, and just kind of talk and shoot the breeze, and then jump on the bus or whatever. It's just at 2 o'clock. You just have some drinks. It's kind of like after a hockey game. Nobody can go to bed at midnight right after a hockey game. You just got the adrenaline going. You're excited. You just sit around, watch TV, and have a beer and hang out. So that's what we do. And then at 1 or 2 o'clock, whenever everybody wants to leave, you jump on the bus, and the bus just rolls, and you go to sleep. And you sleep. These buses are they're like home. I mean, it's like a small apartment. They're not garbage buses. I mean, they got satellite TV. They got Xboxes hooked up. They got surround sound. They got everything on these buses. They got hot showers. They got, 2 bathrooms.
Well,
so it's nice.
Because you're going to need to clean your body.
Yeah, you're gonna need to wash up here and there. Yeah, and so you wake up and you're just in a new parking lot. It's not sexy at all. You're in another parking lot, and so then usually we'll have a little breakfast, and then at about noon or 1 with Aldean, and when he was out with Luke Bryan, they like to play basketball, so they bring a full real basketball hoop. And they'll play a big pickup 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 pickup game with him and all the guys in the band and some crew guys, and they'll play for 2 hours, sweating and pushing each other and screaming and intense basketball games. So that was kind of fun. And then you'll have dinner.
Who's the better basketball player, Jason Aldean or Luke Bryan?
Aldean was probably better. Aldean was a competitive. He was a competitive man. He was a competitive dude, man. He was pushing, and he was playing hard. He wasn't bad.
And then were you out there setting picks, or what were you doing? Were you in the paint,
man, I was
back
going,
to the basket?
I was going hard, man. I was pushing and elbowing. And,
what's the best part of Adam Burish's game? His basketball game.
Probably rebounding, man. I'm not a real good shooter. Just get me around the hoop and let me box a few guys out and jump up and get a few boards. Nothing very, not a real good outside shooter.
So your stat line might be 1 point, 16 boards, and 4 assists.
Like Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, but with less tattoos.
Less tattoos and not the funky hair color.
Right, or the piercings in your face.
Yeah,
so when
not the piercings all over my face.
So
that's those guys. So they play basketball, and then then they do the show, and then it's great. We have a few drinks before the show. They'll sit around and have a few drinks and hang out before the show and just kind of talk and BS, and they'll do the show and then hang out after, have a little party after and hang out. And then Rascal Flatts guys, they like to play golf and I like to play a lot of golf, so that's how I actually met those guys. I met them on a golf course. And they like to play golf, so every day they'll wake up, and it's pretty cool because, they're Rascal Flatts, so they can play anywhere. They just call, and, the best course, whatever city they're in, they just call the favorite course that they want to play or they haven't played, and they get them out there. And so I just kind of ride their coattails and jump on the course and play golf all day, and they'll get back at 4 or 5 o'clock again from the golf course, have dinner, do the show, have a few drinks, do the show, and then have a few after, and then go to bed and wake up, and you're in a new parking lot again, and, you just kind of, it can get long, but, with those guys it was fun because they went and played golf every day.
Dude, that sounds like the best summer vacation ever. But I have so many questions, Adam. Okay, so just humor me for a bit. Because you are 100% like a dude's dude. To put it for the people listening, to put it in a sports context, you're very much a glue guy. You're one of the best guys in the room. Everybody, you're just a dude. So when you're in these other environments with musicians and stuff, do you? I know you're going to be yourself, but do you also have that function where you're either like the great storyteller, or do you are you the dude? Are you the conduit between introducing new people? You might have a good eye for meeting new friends, and some friends want to meet the band. Do you have that function, or like what's the role that you play when you're on the road? I'm just trying to figure it out. You know what I mean?
A little bit of all that, actually. You know what? But first, I just try and stay out of the way. It's not my show. I've got, I'm just a friend. I'm just hanging out. So first, I try to stay out of the way. I'm not trying to, it's not my show. It's not my concert. I'm just kind of in the background hanging out. And I'll tell a few stories. The cool thing is, and you've heard it before, but it's kind of true, is that, athletes want to be musicians, and musicians want to be athletes. If I could do it all over again, man, I'd want to grow up and be Jason Aldean. I'd want to be a rock star. And guys in his band and him, like he wanted to be a pro baseball player. That's what he wanted to do, and that his bass player wanted to be an NHL hockey player. And so they'll start asking some stories, and if they ask, I'll tell them, and make them laugh a little bit, and then they'll share some of their goofy stories from being on the road for so long, and then the show starts. Yeah, if I get some friends that are at the show or out in the crowd, and they may want to come back and meet some of the guys, and take a picture with some of the guys in the band. If they're willing, I can arrange that. And come and say hi, and maybe they're not, but yeah. So it's fun, man. It's a fun weekend getaway. It's totally different than anything that I'm ever a part of or ever I get to do. So it's a totally different world that they live in, and it's a totally different bubble that they're in and we're in. And but it's pretty cool to see up close. It's pretty it's cool too that before the show, it's kind of like if they get in the dressing room. If the show starts at 9, it's just like us. They get into the dressing room 2 hours before at 7 o'clock, and they have a few drinks. The only difference is they can drink and smoke cigarettes before their shows.
Right.
We can't. But they're in there, drinking some whiskey and having a few cocktails. And then as the show gets closer and closer, and it gets to be about 8:15, 8:30. You can kind of see it's kind of cool because they get up and they kind of start moving a little bit, and they kind of just, they kind of start getting into their own little world. And,
is there any
kind of
stretching or vocal exercises?
No, I didn't see any of that stuff going on. No, none of that. It's funny. I asked Jason one time. I said, "Hey, man," I was like, "This is a stupid, ignorant question, but you're drinking whiskey and stuff. Don't you drink tea or hot tea or something with some honey in it before before a show, or you just whiskey and cigarettes, or what? What do you guys?" Stuff like that. And he goes, that's garbage. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, what do you drink why do you drink tea? And I go, I don't know, warm your voice up. He goes, yeah, well, when you're sitting outside and freezing cold watching a football game, what do you drink? And I said, whiskey. Why? He goes, to get warm. He goes, there you go. That's why I'm drinking whiskey. I'm warming my voice up. So it was just, but it's cool. And they kind of get, as the show gets closer, they get moved. They get, you can see their hands kind of like they pretend they're playing the guitar. Their drummer comes in. He brings a drum pad in, and he starts just banging on this drum pad for 20 minutes, like doing these little rudiments and practicing his drumming and warming up. And then, then the guy comes in, all right, 5 minutes away, and then, then they're getting they all start doing their own thing, putting their earbuds in and kind of getting ready. So it's cool to see the build up, and they're pros too, man. I mean, they're doing this every 3 nights a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the same show, the same deal every time, but they got to give you 100%. They got to give you the emotion. So it's cool to see up close. I mean, these guys are pros, man. They're the real deal.
Now, Adam, when you're I would like to, and for the listeners of Cabbie Presents, there are a lot of stories that are told on this particular podcast. Is there one that you could tell about meeting new friends from the audience? An up close and personal kind of a profile story, where there's some new friends from, could be your state of Wisconsin or Idaho or Tennessee or Missouri, the Show Me State. Were they showing you stuff? Can you give me one of those stories?
Yeah, well, you know what, it's a lot of hanging out, a lot of, just getting to know the people. And I guess the nice thing for, when I'm out on the road is that, I got the pass that I can go back and kind of go wherever I want. So, I can be a pretty popular guy then if I start cruising the crowd and seeing some friends of mine that may want to come and take a picture with I'm the gatekeeper. They may want to come and say hi to some guys in the band or some of the singers or whatever. So, but again, like, to be honest with you, it's kind of like, it's not my show, so I'm always kind of like, hey, I've got some friends here. They'd go bananas to come back and say hi to one of the guys in the band or, so and so. But I'm always careful, like, hey, this is after the show. It's kind of like these guys' space. It'd be no different than, somebody bringing 10 people into our locker room after a hockey game, like after you just lost 3-2 or after you just won 5-0, and maybe you guys want to get out of there and they want to go meet some of their friends at the bar, and go hang out somewhere else. And so I'm always just kind of careful that I'm not getting anybody's space, I'm not getting anybody's way. But there's been a couple good times where I've been, out with some guys and one of the bands, and I've had some friends at the show, and guys wanted to come back and say hi and take a picture with the guys in the band, and sometimes I'm able to set that up.
So are you? So in some ways, I guess are you like the Wayne Gretzky of? I don't want to say a roadie, but the Wayne Gretzky of introductions, where your points on the board are all assists.
Yeah, it can be. I like to score a few goals here and there too, but I can be. I can be a pretty good. I can be a good setup man. Yeah, I can be the distributor too.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Now, what's the dress code like for you when you are on the road? Like, do you have to dress in the same regalia? That certain shirt that has like that white outline of the pockets. It could be like a blue shirt, but it's got that print, and then like the cowboy hat. Like, how much of that regalia do you immerse yourself into on these tours?
None, man. That's the cool thing about these guys.
Okay, yeah.
Is they're not they don't have a dress code. They dress how they want. They do what they want. I'm jeans and a t-shirt, man. I'm jeans and a t-shirt and a hat when I go on the road with these guys. That's it. And that's what these guys are wearing. Aldean does his cowboy hat when he's out there playing, and then he comes off and he puts a baseball hat on and throws a t-shirt on and just hangs out. These guys are salt of the earth guys, man. They're just easy going. They're just cool. Nobody's judging. Nobody's worried about it. Everybody's just hanging out, being cool, having a beer, having a whiskey and Coke, just chilling out, relaxing, hanging out, nothing fancy. There's no champagne after the show gets done. It's you want a beer, you want a whiskey.
Bottles,
what do you want? No, it's you want a beer, you want a whiskey. What do you want? That's what. Well, you have this. You have any fruity drinks? No, we got Coke and Diet Coke and a Sprite.
So your body can only take this for like a weekend or like at the max, like 4 or 5 days each time?
Yeah, it's 3 days. 3 days.
3 days. It's like going to Vegas.
It's exactly like going to Vegas. It's 3 days and done, and it's early in the summer for me, and every day's different too. Like some days, there'll be a big party after the show, and we're hanging out. They just had maybe it was a back-to-back sellout shows, or maybe one of their singles just went number one, and they want to celebrate that. It was one of the times. It was pretty cool. I was out with Rascal Flats, and one of the guys in the band had just had a kid, and so we woke up in the morning. He jumped on a plane at about 10 in the morning, flew from Michigan down to Nashville. His wife was in labor, went in, had a baby. Then he flew back, and the show starts at 9. He flew back at about 8:15. He landed. They got him into the venue at about 8:30. He came in. It was pretty cool. He wore his jeans, then he wore his scrubs top onto the stage and played in his scrubs that he just, delivered his baby in. And then after the show, we had a little celebration, and they had some champagne there for him that night, and then just drank some beers and
that's pretty cool.
And hung out a little. That was a little later that night. We were up late drinking that night and hanging out, telling stories again. But so every night's different. Like they wanted to celebrate that night and have some fun, and then the next night might have been the last show of the little weekend trip. Might have been a Saturday or Sunday night, and have a few drinks and a few laughs after the show, and then jump on the bus and head home.
Very cool. That is very cool. I know that Vince Vaughn was like a big a fan of the team, and and since he just did that movie, well, I guess it wasn't just. I mean, it was the Internship. I think it came out last summer. Did you see him when he was out in California shooting that movie? And have you ever been to the Google campus?
I've been to the Google campus. Yeah, I didn't see him when he was out here shooting. I actually saw him that summer at a football, right before the season started, at a football game in Notre Dame. He's a big Notre Dame fan. I saw him at a football game there, but I didn't see him there. But I saw him when I was in Chicago. I saw him all the time. He was around a lot. Dave Boland's really tight with him, actually. Dave Boland and him were really good buddies when we were there, and so Dave would bring him around a lot. He came around a lot. He was awesome, dude. He was super cool guy. In Dallas, he did a show. He did like a stand-up comedy show in Dallas when I played in Dallas, and I saw him there. But Boland was probably the closest with him. But he was such a super nice guy, man. He was a huge hockey fan, huge Blackhawks fan, and he knows way more about hockey than anybody can imagine. I mean, he knows guys all around the league. He knows what guys' stats, what kind of player they are. He knows a lot about hockey. And pretty cool guy, and but real laid back too. When he goes out, he doesn't like to be the center of attention. He doesn't like to go out a lot.
You're talking about Vince?
About Vince, yeah. Super cool. But one of the things I remember about winning the Stanley Cup that summer and going out was, during the season or during any part of like Vince doesn't like to go out to a busy place because everybody wants to see him. Everybody wanted to take pictures of him. Everybody would always swarm him. He couldn't go out anywhere in Chicago or to a busy bar or a busy nightclub unless it was quiet or it was an off night or something like that. But when we won a couple of times, he came out with us, and nobody would bother him because everybody wanted to see. Everybody was about the Stanley Cup and the Blackhawks. So he was out a lot. And then kind of looking back on it, a couple of years later, I was like, man, what was cool was that it wasn't about it wasn't about one guy. It wasn't about Patrick Kane or Jonathan Taves or Sharp or Hossa or Versteeg. It wasn't about one guy. It was about the Stanley Cup. That's what everybody wanted to see. That thing is so damn powerful, man, that everybody is just attracted to that cup. You could put Vince Vaughn next to it. You could put Obama next to it. You could put anybody next to the cup, and nobody sees who's around the cup. Everybody just sees the Stanley Cup. They just want to picture the Stanley Cup. They want to touch it. They want to kiss it. They want to drink out of the Stanley Cup. They don't care, cool if Kane or Taves or Sharp are in the picture, great, awesome, even cooler, but I just want to be by the cup. I want to see the cup. I want to touch it. And so that was pretty cool where a couple nights Vince came out with us after he won, and to places you probably wouldn't normally want to go out or on a Friday night not go out because everybody would bug him, but it wasn't about, what most famous movie guy actor is in the building. It's about Stanley Cups in the building. So that was pretty cool.
That was a absolute pleasure for me at that time, like getting to follow you guys at that time, with the Chicago Blackhawks on that journey, and you've always been awesome to me. I remember once you gave me an interview. You'd already changed, you'd left, but then you came back in the room, and then you were like swarmed by reporters only because you said you would give me an interview, and I really appreciated that. As well as there was I can't remember this bit, but there was a bit where we were like checking out pictures on my phone as for something, and you said, you know what, just for fun, let's see what else you got. And then I just kept going through pictures on my phone. It was just a fun moment for me.
I remember that. You had some nice ones.
Yes. Yeah. And hopefully the audience enjoyed it as well. I'll have to do this again with you because we didn't really get into a bunch of stuff, but I don't want to keep you for too long. I really do appreciate you telling us a few stories. Can you get us out of here on one final, either a Taves or a Kane story, Adam?
Man, I can't think of a good one off the top of my head. The only cool thing I can think of is just right after we won the Stanley Cup, we flew back to Chicago. We got in at probably 2 a.m, and Kane is just everybody has their own idea of what he's like, and for me, as one of my close friends, he's a sweetheart. He's got a big heart. He's a good teammate. When I was there, he was, just becoming this biggest superstar in the game. And so we win the Stanley Cup. He just scores the game winner in overtime. We fly back. They have a little party for us at a Harry Carey's restaurant right by the airport with all our families and everything. And they had a bunch of limos set up. And we were going to jump in these limos and head on downtown and go out from there. And we had called the bar ahead of time that we were going to come there and probably wouldn't get there till 3, but, keep the place open. We'll all be there. And all the guys were getting there. And so he and I went in, said hi to our families. And then we said, hey, we're going to get out of here and go to the bar downtown. We'll meet you guys all there. And so Kane and I jumped in the car and we went down there, and, we're in the car, and it was kind of like, it was kind of a cool moment. It was just us sitting there, and it was kind of quiet, and we were in the car like, holy man, can you believe this? Like, what just happened? And just, he goes to me, he's like, hey, so you think there'll be a lot of people at the bar tonight? And I was like, yeah. He's like, do you think there's going to be like, is it going to be fun? Like, is this going to be a wild party? Is it going to be like, are people going to like, is this going to be cool? And I'm like, holy man, dude, Kaner, you can do whatever you want in this city. You just scored the game-winning goal in overtime. dude, whatever you want to do from now on, you can do it, man, and smile and have a good time. You're the man. Why are you asking me? Who the heck am I? You know, who am I to tell you what's going to be going on? You tell me what's going on from now on. You're the man. So it was just like, it was pretty cool. He was just like, he was so like nonchalant about, like, it almost like he didn't at that time understand the magnitude of what he just did and who he was. And, you know, we all did, but I think it's kind of was always cool to me that he just always wanted to be he was just always a regular guy. He just always wanted to be, you know, one of the guys and hanging out. And, you know, he'd always had his close buddies from Buffalo that were always around that would come into town, and it was his buddies would always say, like, hey, we're friends, we're not fans. You know, we're all friends, we're not fans here. And that's how he was with his buddies. And so I always remember that. It was cool like that. Right after he won the Stanley Cup, he was still like, he wasn't, you know, he was just Pat. He was just Patrick. He was just Pat. You know, he was just Kaner. He wasn't, you know, the famous Patrick Kane. He was just one of the guys. So it was cool. And, you know, that's why part of the reason he and I always got along so good, I think, is I always just, you know, appreciated that he was just a cool guy. He wasn't bigger than everybody. He had this big personality like everybody thought he always had.
Well, the takeaway that I get from that story is that he was following your lead. And like many of your teammates, it's like they look to you just as either socially or just for activities. You're that guy who, even though Patrick Kane may be the biggest star on the team, it was you he was asking about what the night's going to be like. Is it going to be fun, blah, blah, blah. So you have that effect on people. I haven't been the benefactor of some of those nights out with you, but I look forward to doing that, Adam.
We'll have some. I think from now on, after his second cup there, now I'm going to be asking Patrick now what's going on from here on forward. But
well,
you and I got to get out one night.
Oh yeah, I look forward to it. For the people listening on Twitter, it's at @aburish37, all one word, ABURISH37. And if things go according to plan out there in San Jose, then maybe in 2 or 3 months we'll have another conversation where your voice might be a little raspy from some whiskey and good times.
Yep, and I want another medal when we win the cup out here. You can come and bring me I need a new medal.
You got it, my friend. Thank you so much, Adam.
All right, Cabbie, thanks.
Thank you for listening to Cabbie Presents, the podcast.